Welcome to Surrender School.
Jennifer, to you.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Cher. So it would seem evident in everything, all of my inventories, my kind observer, everything I ever write, everything I hear feedback I get from other people, what I know about myself, that over control would be the thing that I picked. And it was going to be until I came face to face with my inner victim a couple of weeks ago. And I am pivoting because, and I haven't analyzed it fully, which I also think is good, trying to make sure that I'm choosing the right one and therefore examining whether the door of victim leads to the door of control or vice versa. But what I know is that I have been living in a pretty perpetual state of victimhood, which is particularly insidious because of the positional power that I hold. And it somehow or another, because when I fear, fear is 100% what it's based on. And in being a victim, I'm hopeless, I'm powerless, even though it's not the kind of powerless that I'm trying to surrender. It's, and it is as well, right? But it puts me in a mind state that I guess maybe I need to go through and figure out well, I did the analysis on victim as well. And even though, again, it doesn't, I think I could do both. I could do both because over control is 100% clear. Victim and the behaviors are a little bit more nuanced, but again, it just feels like it cuts laser into an entire way of approaching the world that I need to give over. So,
And those are so closely related that it might end up one after almost like, you know what I mean? Almost being like
and see, I
connected.
can't see where they're closely related. So thank you for saying that. Because like I was saying, I'm trying to, yeah, I
So
don't
you
even.
may find as you go through that, yeah, just give yourself permission to take it wherever it leads to,
Mhm.
because I'm from my perspective, those are closely related.
Well,
So
that's
oh,
good to hear.
interesting. Okay, thank you for that, Jennifer.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Uh-huh. All right, Dave, to you.
Well, hi, everybody. So I surprised myself by picking a different one than I had thought I was going to. And it's a big one. And the reason I avoided this one before is I thought, oh, it's too big a one. It's too all-encompassing. But when I started doing this form, it was just a gold mine of information. So lust for intensity is the one. So how my ego thinks it helps me. I feel more alive. I feel like I'm participating fully. And what does it cost me? I can overdo it physically and get an injury, especially when I find out I'm not 30 years old anymore. But I think my body should respond the way it did when I was 30. Um, I overeat and have related health issues. I neglect dull routine tasks that need to be done because they're not very intense, they're not very exciting. Um, what do I fear about letting it go? Fear of missing out. I fear that I won't have any friends because I'll be dull and boring. I'll be so busy completing tasks that I forget to live my life. And I really am aware of how my seven wing is involved in all this too, because that's definitely my strongest wing. And when I indulge that, I neglect a lot of other really important things sometimes. Um, how will it benefit me from letting go? I'll enjoy more quiet, peaceful activities with my wife and grandchildren. I'll have a cleaner, more organized home. I'll eat healthier food and improve my health. And I really became aware of all this week when our grandkids were visiting, because my almost 5-year-old granddaughter is my mini me. She is definitely a type 8, was a type 8 the minute she came out of the womb, I think. And she's just she will get so intense with things that she has to calm herself down, and she'll have to access her 9 wing, go into a room, close the door, and just chill for a minute because she's gotten so wound up that even she can't stand what she's doing. And it was so interesting to watch her doing that. And then she comes out and she's like a calm, happy person. It's an amazing thing to watch. And I probably should do a little bit more of that myself. So my 5-year-old teacher uh, was really helpful this past week. And I'm glad she went home because it's got a lot quieter and peaceful around here right now. We had a wonderful time, but we're ready for a break now.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Shirley, to you.
So I think my number one defense is self-abandonment. And a lot of the behaviors, like pride, I'm always like trying to be prideful. It provides all of these behaviors like the pride and the people pleasing and the denial of my needs and the codependency. They all provide like a little snack, I call it. Like, for example, pride gives me a sense of self-worth, and the people pleasing, I avoid conflict. And the denial of needs is I focus attention on others. Like I'm always running away from myself, and all these different things like codependency. I make myself feel like I belong because I attach myself to other people all the time. I hate being by myself. So I think if I would just advocate on my own behalf and be present for myself and share. You mentioned something about the pause, which is just stop, breathe. And, I'm always doing all these behaviors, like all the ego defenses. And like, I get this little tidbit of satisfaction, but at the end of the day, it costs me a lot because I don't have any self-acceptance. I'm not aware of what my needs are. I'm not aware of, I don't have like real relationships, I mean, when I talk to people, I'm not really listening to them. So, kind of along those lines. Is that what we're doing here?
It does, but I will say, okay, so you said self-abandonment and then you listed like 5 things. Right. So you can go with self-abandonment and then watch for those 5 things. You can pick one of the 5 and watch it. Right.
Okay.
So, and that's a choice that you have, provided you're looking for the little things. Right. Because otherwise the self-abandonment is big. And
right. So the one thing I think I would look for is that how like I'll like step out of the way in the bedroom with my husband in the morning because I think I'm in his space. I have as much right to be in the bedroom in the space. And I notice like I'm always, saying some people pleasing type of thing. All these behaviors I do, just noticing them, like to not act on my own behalf, or represent myself or ask for what I want and need. My mantra, ask for what I want and need, And I think part of
the main thing there, and once again, because you haven't heard yourself do this, but you've named like 5 or 6 things.
Right.
So you have a choice to do the big one, but watch for the little ones or pick one of the little ones, right? Because once again, we change one thing at a time. My fear is if you pick the big one, you will not see the little ones because you're going to be looking for, did I abandon myself? Did I abandon myself? Right. And it's actually, did I do people pleasing? Right? Did I overgive? There's things that 2s do, and that's what you want to be looking at. Or the
so you're suggesting I look at those things. Am I people pleasing?
Yeah.
Am I?
So later on, I'm going to cover the people pleasing one because that's a 2 big deal for the 2s, and actually 9s too. Lori and I talked about that earlier.
But I think at the end of the day, Cher and everyone else, is that I'm not in touch with my wants and my needs. So
exactly.
I whatever. There it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is true.
Yeah.
So let's,
thank you.
You bet. Thank you. All right, Jim, to you.
So I ended up picking on 3 character defenses that I touched on maybe last time. I'm going to cut it down to 1. To me, it sounds like 2, but it only sounds like 2 because I believe that they overlap. So I've chosen envy and self-pity. But that's 2 tough ones for me to choose. For a bit of background, I had, as a consequence of a road accident as a kid, I had a spinal injury. And this was 46 years ago in my life. During the rehabilitation process, self-pity was a no-no. It doesn't happen because you're not going to fulfill any potential in your life if you feel sorry for yourself.
Thank you, Jim. And I want to say too, this is what's interesting. My sponsor used to say that we can't let it go until we hold it. So often what happens, and I think this absolutely happens with fours, right? Because the self-pity and the envy are just like wired into fours so much more than other types. I do think one of the things that can happen is because we're told you shouldn't feel that, right? Then you push it down. Okay, I shouldn't feel that. Well, some of it, the process right now is to grab it and feel it and let it go. Hold on to it and let it go and admit that there is something there, which brings me back to something I said earlier. I had begun to believe that I wasn't a compulsive eater because my life was going along swimmingly. Suddenly, right, I've got shit going on in my life and I'm proving to myself I'm a compulsive eater still. Are you kidding me? I thought this was gone. It's not, right? And I think, so that just, at least to me, proves, right, that there's so many things that are in our blind spot that when we bring them forward, we can go, okay. And one of the things I'm going to talk about next week is grieving these things going away, because some of them are habits we've had for our entire lifetime. And some are habits we've had for our lifetime that we push down because they're unacceptable, right? We need to bring them up. That's why we do them one at a time. And I understand what you're saying, because again, the self-pity and envy are linked. So even though there are two things, Jim, I think you're right on track to work on that. I think right on track. Katja, we're going to catch you on the other side because I want to move on to the lesson that we're doing. So this is something that I call the circle of change. And I thought this picture was beautiful, you know, with the fish float or swimming in a circle. Okay, this is the circle of change. This is the way change happens. And this is Cheryl's version of the way things happen. It didn't come from anywhere else. It came from me. All right. So the need to change starts inside of you. And most of you are feeling that. It's the reason that we still have 50 people coming here, because there's something in your life that you're like, I really need to change this. This needs to change, whatever it is. I need to go deeper spiritually. There's something that needs to change. And that need comes from inside of you. Interestingly enough, the actual change itself starts on the outside with behavior. It starts on our part of it starts on the outside with behavior. And the way that we kind of marry that into step 7, I'll put it that way, is we show our willingness by trying the opposite. Those of you that had a chance to look at that or work on that final, the readiness assessment, right? There shows a willingness to try the opposite, because our part in step 7, like I said, we don't just sunbathe, we actually do something. And what we do is we try the opposite. Doesn't mean we do the opposite because we're really bad at it. We're like a baby trying to walk, right? So they take 2 steps and fall, and then we all cheer. And that's what should happen with us too. I am going to try the opposite, and I'm going to be really shitty at it, but that's what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is showing the universe, showing God, my willingness to try the opposite. So once again, the need to change is inside of us. We feel that need so strongly, but that isn't where the change begins. The actual change begins on the outside with our behavior. And what we're doing is we are showing our willingness by trying the opposite. And I'm going to show you an example here with the 2. Okay. So this is the defense analysis, and I picked people pleasing. Okay, how does the ego think that it helps you? Is it maintains harmony and avoids conflict? What does it cost you? I feel invisible and inauthentic. Other people feel confused about what I really want. Okay, what do they fear? What does a 2 fear about letting go? Fear of rejection or disapproval. And how will they benefit from letting go? Developing self-respect and assertiveness. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. Now what I do is I'm going to go ahead, that screen is there, and then I'm going to look at people pleasing. And once again, the things all the way on the left are the same on both of these sheets, by the way. So now for the example readiness assessment, right, for people pleasing, what can you do that what opposite behavior can do that shows your willingness to change? This isn't like, now I've changed. This is going to show the spirit of the universe is going to show God that I am willing to, and other people, that I am willing to change. So for the people pleasing, the 2 can honor their own truth, say no when something doesn't align with my well-being. So that means you have the pause, Shirley, tied to earlier, you have the pause that says, is this good for my well-being? I do want to say, by the way, for 2, It's an opposite, but it's a gentle opposite. Instead of saying, nope, I'm not going to do it, is to say, I'm not willing to do that, but I am willing to do this. Right? I'm not willing to do that, but I am willing to do this. Is a no, but it's a gentler no. And there is something that you are willing to do. It's not a blanket no. Okay. So anyway, on the people pleasing, I can honor my own truth and say no when something doesn't align with my own well-being. When it takes time out and I'm doing something for someone else instead of for myself, when I'm doing something for a stranger instead of my family, which sometimes twos will do, but that is trying, right? We're trying an opposite behavior. And the purpose of us trying the opposite behavior is to show God that we are willing to do the opposite. All right. So, and this is the two pieces of paper, if you printed them out, that you've been working on this past week. And once again, I'm going to come back to this because I think this is why we're doing this. It is called the circle of change. It is the need to change starts inside of us, because if we don't have a need to change, it's really difficult to change anything, right? But there's this need. It usually comes from pain rather than a need for pleasure, right? There's some, in my case, I talked about anger. I was I was angry all the time, and it just really had a shit life. And I didn't want to have a shit life anymore, right? So the need came from inside, but that's not where the change started. The change for me, at least, started from the outside. And I would force myself not to answer. I would force myself not to say things. I would force myself to not share an opinion. I would force that. That's how it started. And what I did is I was showing God my willingness by doing opposite of my normal behavior. And then what happened is I not only became willing, but then God, that's what allowed my greater power to make the change that I really, really wanted to have happen. Right. But and greater power did it. I did not. I just showed that I'm willing, and then worked basically with, I mean, the power of the spirit of the universe is so much stronger than anything we can imagine. And that is what makes the actual change itself. But I need to show that I'm willing to do my part of it too. Okay. All right, so the breakout room shares, and Shirley, this is for you specifically. All right, so here's what we're going to do. The defense analysis is the first sheet, and it answers the cost, benefit, fear, and why. You can pick one of those. I would do it against the one you picked, right? You can say, so Shirley, rather than I abandoned myself, that giant one, like pick one of these and share on that, if that makes sense. And then the readiness assessment.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Okay, good. Then the readiness assessment says, am I ready to have this one thing removed? And what you're really asking is, am I ready to try doing the opposite on this? Am I ready to try doing the opposite? Doesn't mean we do it well, right? But it does mean that I am ready to try doing the opposite of this. Okay, so Lori, when we're ready for the breakout rooms, you let me know. Yep, so don't go yet. Let's see if we have questions. So Vera and Tamara, I have your hands up. Do you guys have questions about the breakout rooms, or? Okay.
Yes, could you put that slide back on, because I couldn't take the notes.
Sure. This slide? Is this
yes,
the slide you
thank
okay,
you.
good.
Thank you.
You got it. Now here's the thing. The question, am I ready to have this removed? That's a question. It's like, I don't know, am I ready? I don't know, am I ready? I mean, unless it's fucking your life up completely, right? That's why I changed the question kind of to, am I ready to try doing the opposite? Because that shows your willingness. Yes, I'm ready to try doing the opposite, right? I'm ready to, in my case, instead of taking over everything, I'm ready to step back and let someone else take over. And at first it was like, oh, I know that I could do a better job than that. Oh my God, right? And now it's like, I'm perfectly fine. Knock yourself out. Even if I could do a better job, so what? Just because I can doesn't mean I should, right? So am I ready to try doing the opposite is the question. Vera, did you get that? All right, I'm going to assume yes. Tamara, to you.
Yeah, my question is, I was confused on what we're doing in the breakout rooms, because we did the defense analysis, but then we're also doing the readiness analysis.
So I think the readiness comes automatically, which is why I'm doing this. The defense analysis is very similar to the questions. It's identical to the questions, just a different form.
Right.
So some people stop there, and that's fine. Share on that. If, however, you went forward to the assessment, to the readiness assessment, feel free to share that as well. We're going to talk more about the readiness assessment next week. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I've got something different that we're going to be doing next week as far as the sharing. So if you did the readiness assessment or are willing on the fly to go, yeah, I'm ready to try an opposite here, right, on whatever that one is, then feel free to do that. So this is pretty much free form on one of those two or both, whichever you feel like sharing on. Because some people did
All
move
right,
on.
thanks.
You bet. Everybody good? All right, Lori, if you're ready, breakout rooms.
I'm ready.
This was part of my reading from this morning. And when I talk about us wanting to see the changes that are happening, I thought this really addressed it beautifully because I want you to be able to see the change. That's why we do little pieces instead of big, unless the big is ruining your life. And even then, this is a practice to learn a practice. All right, so here is what, and I've reworded this a little bit so it touches what we're doing. Though the sun burns constantly, it is unseen until it hits a simple blade of grass. In the same way, the presence of God moves between us unseen, only visible in the brief moments we are lighted, in those enlivened moments we know as love. I'm going to read that again. Though the sun burns constantly, it is unseen until it hits a simple blade of grass. In the same way, the presence of God moves between us unseen, only visible in the brief moments we are lighted, in those enlivened moments we know as love. All right, so we are back here. We have a bit of time. So I know, Katya, you wanted to share. And so basically, what I'd like to talk about is just anything you feel like talking about as we close this. Next week, we're going to be wrapping up step 6. I'm going to begin the review, at least a little bit, of steps 1 through 6. And then on the 6th, I'll do a review of all of the 6 steps. So if you have friends who have talked about coming here and haven't joined because they felt like they were too far behind, I'm going to give some ideas on how to catch up. All the work you guys have done, obviously the catching up isn't going to be as effective as the work that you've been doing, but okay, let's see. Katya, did you want to share now or you want to share a little bit later? Is
It's
that
okay
a yes?
now, share.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, what I wanted to say is that this is really interesting. And it goes, I didn't know this you were putting on those slides before I said I wanted to share. But it's interesting because at the beginning, as I said before, I really wanted to die, letting go this sense of control and this sense of anger. And little by little, I don't even know how or why, it has been coming, lessening, you know. For example, I am in another town for maybe a month, and my brother is taking care of my mother and all the situations. And at the beginning, I thought, I cannot do this. I need to have the control of everything. And now he is taking care of things. And something is telling me, you're in another town, you cannot do anything. Give him the opportunity to fix things and take the control, but not the way I take the control. Take the situations as they come, and nothing happens. You know, the world is not getting over or disappearing or anything like that. And another thing that I found out is I'm starting to have a little bit more empathy with people, because I am not so intolerant or impatient or want things done my way or feel self-sufficient, etc., etc. So it's interesting. It's interesting because something is starting to change, and it's not so bad, you know.
Good.
The change is not so bad. And it's like, I was telling in the breakout room, I was thinking, do I really feel loved by other people? And I share with them. People are saying, told me yesterday, I love you, I love you. I said, what's happening here? 4, 5, 6 friends start to say that. And it's like, you have to believe yourself that you loved, even though you're angry, upset, controlling, self-sufficient, etc. Nothing is 100% on one side. So I think I am synthesizing control, anger, impatience, etc. You know in what? I think in looking for confrontation. I think all those are minimizing into looking for confrontation. And I think looking for confrontation is like the tail of the hurricane. I mean, the last thing. It's interesting, it's funny, and I am also getting more in touch with my inner girl from the ACA concept, and it helps, and I am very glad.
Good.
Thank you
Good.
very
That's
much
what
for
growth looks
listening
like.
to me.
Thank you, Katya. All right, Jennifer, to you.
I'm going to be super brief because I know I shared before, but I wanted to close the loop and say I got it. Our group was wonderful. Everybody found the tentacles. We called it the octopus, you know, the big octopus head, and then all of the tentacles. So it was interesting to see and learn from each other. But for me, I realized if I were to do over control, I would end up feeling like a raging victim. And so I got the interrelatedness that you said. I couldn't see it before, but now I see it, and it would have just been raging. And so focusing on the victim definitely feels like the victim mentality feels
The
like
thing to do. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you. All right, Cheryl, to you.
Hi, so in the breakout room, I wrote my sister, my character defense, my sister was holding on to the past. And I know there is a character defense here, but the way I worded it does not sound like a character defense. I said, I don't think Cheryl would approve of that. Or I need to reword it. So I'm trying to think how to do it. What I'm coming up with is my sister is learning the 12-step program like I do. So I know how to handle situations and relationships better than she does. Why is she telling me something about 50 years ago that bothered her? So I'm trying to word it into a character defense of mine.
So I think it would be really difficult to do that if the sentence starts with my sister. It's got to start with I.
I know. That's why I'm looking for some help, because it bothers me. So I know it's a character defense. I'm just having trouble putting it into an I statement, which is what I thought is I feel like she should know the 12-step program like I do, so she'd know how to handle situations better like I do.
Maybe first of all, relationships with family are tough. So maybe try an easier one that doesn't have anything to do with the sibling or a spouse or something to get the practice of a defense, right? So I think because if you've had difficulty with your sister for decades, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to take on. And I think you'll see it more clearly if you just pick a simpler one as simple as the defense of being angry when the medical people that you're working with don't give you a full information or something like that. That's like it happens, and then I react, and fours react with anger, just like eights do. Then can I somehow give myself? And once again, we're going to practice the opposite to show our willingness, and then our greater power is going to help us change. So that's the pattern of 7, and it's easier, I think, to pick some little thing like that rather than something giant like your relationship with your sister. So that would be my advice.
Okay, I will work on another one, and I can say it tomorrow in the group. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, see you at office hours. Thank you, Cheryl. Cindy B, to you.
Yep, trying to get my muter to unmute here. So I have a question. I'm noticing as we work through this, my defense that I picked was anger, but as we're working through this, something else came out, and I'm a 4, and fantasy started to really come out. And I'm thinking I need to switch. This just sort of emerged. Remember, Cheryl, how you talked about things coming out, coming to light? Well, this emerged. And so I just kind of watched it emerge, and without going too long story about it. And I really think that this is connected to the anger. So I mean, the fantasy is more concrete. I can see where I where I lapse into fantasy.
Because, and it's more visible to you, right? So the
Yes.
removal of that would be very visible. Yeah. I mean, and once again, it sounds disingenuous for me to say, that's great, do that one instead of anger, when I picked anger as the first one. But I don't, I mean, those of you that are eights and understand what an angry eight feels like, maybe you haven't been an angry eight, I don't know. I lived so much of my youth in just, it was literally rage. Like I would wake up angry over nothing, just living in anger. And I finally got to the point where it's like, I can't live like this anymore. I cannot do that. And I had a sponsor who worked very, very closely with me on this. And once again, the circle of change that says the need comes from inside. I can't live like this anymore. And then the change comes from the outside, and from our greater power. And we show our willingness by trying opposite things, by trying the opposite of what. So, right. So I would try the calm. I was really shitty at it at first, right? But that's what I did. Is it's like, how would a person who wasn't an angry person like me react here? This is how I react. This is how, right? And I needed to pause in order to do that. And I did that. And then what happened is my greater power, the spirit of the universe, came in and made the changes in me. But I had to show, and I just showed my willingness to change, right? Rather than just verbalizing, I want to change, that willingness to change by trying those things, right? And doing them badly and going, oh, I can't believe I did that again. I reacted in anger again, but that's okay. Next time I'll do better next time. And that's how that's our work, is that part of it. So, but every time that I did it successfully, that was just one more penny in heaven, right? Okay, good. I did that. I did it right. That's good. Okay. I'm watching God change me, and that's good. Okay. So I'm enough of that. Okay.
No,
Lauren.
but Cheryl, I wanted to ask you, did you ever find something underneath that was a more defined defense? Maybe it was the fear of abandonment, or what? Did you ever get underneath the anger?
Yeah, to fear. It's fear in me. It's fear. It's fear of, I suppose, fear of being controlled. Almost 100% of the time, it's a fear of being controlled. I mean, that's the basic fear, is that, right? And it's basically, this is what's interesting. It's the fear of being controlled by someone who will harm me. That's the basic fear of the eight. And absolutely that is, which is one of the reasons I keep talking about. The basic fear drives so much of what we do. The basic desire is there, and that's important too, but the basic fear is like the killer, right? So yeah, Cindy, thank you for asking that. But I do think that.
No, but now it all makes sense.
Yeah, for this exercise, really and truly, like I said, I sound disingenuous, but I really don't feel that way, because that took years for me to do. And I want you guys to be able to see changes like soon, like right away. And that's why I'm saying pick a little one and let's see the change, because then you build momentum toward all the other things. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks for recovering with us.